Dr. Lisa Kane wiped sweat from her forehead as she stepped out of the research shuttle onto the jungle floor of Kepler 442c. The air felt thick and humid against her skin. Strange bird-like creatures called out from the canopy above, while colorful insects buzzed around her head. She had studied dozens of alien worlds, but this planet still amazed her with its wild beauty. "Temperature is holding steady at 92 degrees, called out Amy Ford from inside the shuttle. The communications officer was checking her instruments, while Jake Morris ran through his pre-flight checklist. "Atmospheric composition looks good for extended surface operations." Lisa nodded and adjusted her field pack. As the lead xenobiologist for the exploration vessel New Frontier, she had requested this mission to study the apex predators of this remote world. The planet sat far from any major trade routes and had been surveyed only briefly by automated probes. Those probes had detected massive life forms in the dense jungle regions, but no detailed studies had ever been conducted. "Remember, we only have 6 hours before the next weather system moves in," said Tony Blake as he emerged from the shuttle carrying a heavy equipment case. The security chief looked uncomfortable in the jungle heat, but his training kept him focused on the job. "Command wants us back on ship before those storm fronts hit." The team had been working together for 8 months aboard the New Frontier. Lisa respected Tony's experience, even though she sometimes found his cautious nature limiting. Jake Morris was their best pilot and could handle any spacecraft in difficult conditions. Amy Ford kept them connected to the ship and monitored all their communications with the outside galaxy. Lisa opened her scanner and began taking readings of the surrounding area. The jungle teemed with life signatures, but most were small creatures. She was looking for something much larger. The automated probes had detected movement patterns suggesting predators the size of Earth elephants, but with hunting behaviors that seemed far more sophisticated. "Readings show a clearing about 2 kilometers north of here," she told the team. "The probe data suggests that area might be a feeding ground for larger predators. We should be able to collect tissue samples and behavioral data without too much risk." They began walking through the dense undergrowth. Jake took point while Tony brought up the rear with his weapon ready. Lisa had argued against bringing firearms, but Tony insisted on following standard security protocols. She hoped they would not need them. Her goal was to observe and study, not to fight. The jungle grew thicker as they moved deeper inland. Vines hung down from trees that towered over, 200 feet high. The ground squelched under their boots from recent rainfall. Strange flowers bloomed in brilliant reds and purples, while spider-like creatures scurried away from their footsteps. "Getting some interference on the comm channels," reported Amy after they had been walking for 30 minutes. "Might be natural. Electromagnetic activity from the storm system moving in." Lisa checked her own instruments. The life sign readings were becoming stronger as they approached the clearing. Something large was definitely in the area ahead of them. She felt excitement building in her chest. This could be the discovery that made her career in xenobiology. They reached the edge of the clearing just as the first drops of rain began to fall. Lisa immediately saw what the probes had detected. Scattered across the open ground were bones and debris from dozens of different creatures. Some looked like they came from herbivores the size of earth cattle. Others belonged to smaller predators with sharp teeth and claws. "This is definitely a feeding ground," she whispered to the team. "Something big hunts here regularly. Look at how the bones are arranged. This predator is not just eating random prey. It seems to be collecting trophies." Jake Morris moved closer to examine some of the larger bone fragments. "These look fresh. Whatever did this was here recently." Tony Blake kept his weapon ready as he scanned the tree line. "We should collect what we need and get back to the shuttle. I do not like being in the open like this." Lisa was too fascinated to worry about danger. She began taking detailed scans of the bone arrangements and collecting tissue samples from the fresher remains. The predator that hunted here showed intelligence far beyond simple animal instinct. It was creating patterns with the bones of its victims. The rain began falling harder and thunder rumbled in the distance. Amy checked her instruments again and frowned. "I am losing contact with the ship. The storm is interfering with our communications more than expected." "We have what we need," said Tony. "Time to head back." Lisa wanted to stay longer, but she knew Tony was right. They could return tomorrow with better weather and more equipment. She packed up her samples and scanner while the team prepared to leave the clearing. That was when Jake Morris screamed. Lisa spun around to see something massive moving through the trees at the far edge of the clearing. It stood at least 12 feet tall with scales that looked black as midnight. Its eyes glowed like yellow fire in the growing darkness. The creature moved with fluid grace despite its enormous size. "Run!" shouted Tony as he raised his weapon. The team scattered in different directions as the creature burst from the tree line. Lisa caught a glimpse of massive claws and teeth like curved daggers before she dove behind a fallen log. The smell of rotting meat and something acidic filled her nostrils. Tony's weapon fired 3 times, but the energy blasts seemed to have no effect on the creature's armored hide. It moved toward him with terrible speed. Lisa heard Amy screaming somewhere to her left while Jake was shouting coordinates into his comm unit. "The shuttle!" yelled Jake. "Everyone back to the shuttle!" Lisa ran through the jungle faster than she had ever moved in her life. Branches tore at her clothes and face as she crashed through the undergrowth. Behind her, she could hear the creature following. Its footsteps shook the ground like thunder. She reached the shuttle clearing just as Jake was starting the engines. Amy was already inside, frantically working the communications array. Tony arrived seconds later with blood running down his arm from deep claw marks. "It caught me with one swipe," he gasped as they sealed the hatch. "Those claws went through my armor like paper." Jake lifted off immediately without waiting for proper clearance procedures. As they rose above the jungle canopy, Lisa looked down through the viewport. The creature stood in the clearing looking up at them. Even from this distance, she could see intelligence in those burning yellow eyes. "What was that thing?" whispered. Lisa checked her scanner readings from the encounter. "According to my instruments, it massed over 800 kilograms. The scale patterns and bone structure suggest it is an apex predator that evolved specifically for hunting large prey." The shuttle shook as they hit turbulence from the approaching storm. Jake fought to keep them steady while he plotted a course back to the new frontier. "We need to report this to command immediately. That creature is unlike anything in our databases." Tony was cleaning his wounds with the medical kit. It moved like it was intelligent. Not just animal instinct, but actual planning and strategy. Lisa nodded while she reviewed the data they had collected. The bone arrangements in the clearing made more sense now. This predator was not just killing for food. It was displaying its victories like trophies. That suggested a level of intelligence. That made it extremely dangerous. The shuttle broke through the storm clouds, and Lisa could see the lights of the new frontier in orbit above them. They had escaped, but barely. She wondered what other secrets this jungle planet might be hiding. The creature they had encountered could be just one of many such predators. As they docked with the ship, Lisa made plans to return with better equipment and more security personnel. She had no idea that within 24 hours their second encounter with the creature would go very differently. The predator had tasted human scent now, and it would not forget. The emergency klaxon woke Lisa from uneasy dreams. Red lights flashed in her quarters aboard the New Frontier as she struggled to understand what was happening. The ship's intercom crackled to life with Captain Roberts' voice calling all senior staff to the bridge immediately. Lisa dressed quickly and ran through the corridors. She found Tony Blake already in the briefing room, looking grim. Amy Ford arrived moments later, followed by Jake Morris, who still looked shaken from their encounter. The day before. "We have a problem," announced Captain Roberts as soon as everyone was seated. 3 hours ago, we lost contact with the orbital research station on Kepler 442c. The automated system stopped responding, and all personnel aboard have gone silent. Lisa felt ice forming in her stomach. The research station housed 47 scientists and support staff who had been studying the planet for the past 6 months. They lived in a heavily fortified facility that should have been safe from any native predators. "Initial scans show the station is still intact," continued the captain. "But there are no life signs detected anywhere in the facility. We need a team to investigate what happened and rescue any survivors." Tony Blake leaned forward in his chair. "Sir, based on what we encountered yesterday, I strongly recommend we approach this with maximum caution. That creature we saw displayed intelligence and capabilities beyond anything in our threat assessment files. That is exactly why I need your team to return to the surface," said Captain Roberts. "You are the only personnel who have direct experience with the planetary fauna. Dr. Kane's expertise will be essential for understanding what we are dealing with." Lisa wanted to refuse the mission, but she knew her duty to the research station personnel. If there were survivors, they would need immediate medical attention and evacuation. Her knowledge of the local ecosystem might be their only hope of rescue. "We will need heavy weapons and additional security personnel," insisted Tony. "The creature we encountered yesterday showed no fear of our standard energy weapons." "Approved," said the captain. "Take whatever equipment you need. Your shuttle leaves in 2 hours." Lisa spent the next 90 minutes reviewing all available data on the research station and its security systems. The facility had been built to withstand attacks from large predators and natural disasters. Its walls were constructed from reinforced metal composites that could stop projectiles from military-grade weapons. Jake Morris ran final checks on their shuttle, while Amy Ford loaded additional communication equipment. They were taking twice as many supplies this time, including emergency medical gear and food rations for potential survivors. Tony Blake assembled a security team of 6 Marines, armed with the ship's most powerful portable weapons. Lisa watched them load plasma rifles and explosive charges into the shuttle cargo bay. She hoped they would not need such firepower, but yesterday's encounter had taught her to expect the unexpected. The shuttle descent through Kepler 442c's atmosphere took 40 minutes through the storm systems that still covered most of the planet. Jake skillfully navigated between lightning strikes and wind shears that would have destroyed a less experienced pilot. "Research station coming into visual range," reported Amy from her sensor station. "I am not detecting any movement around the perimeter." Lisa looked through the viewports as they approached the landing pad. The research station appeared undamaged from the outside. Its lights were still functioning, and the defensive barriers showed no signs of attack. But something felt terribly wrong about the complete silence. They landed without incident and began unloading their equipment. Tony's Marines established a defensive perimeter, while Lisa scanned the area with her instruments. The jungle around the station teemed with normal life signs, but she detected no trace of the massive predator from yesterday. "Main airlock is sealed, but responding to our access codes," reported one of the Marines after checking the station entrance. "Atmospheric readings inside are normal. No signs of breach or contamination. Lisa followed Tony into the station through the main corridor. Emergency lighting cast everything in an eerie red glow, but the facility appeared to be functioning normally. Their footsteps echoed loudly in the silence as they made their way toward the central command center. "Where is everyone?" whispered Amy as she checked her scanner readings. "The life support systems show 47 people were here as recently as 6 hours ago." They reached the command center and found it empty. Workstations were still active, with research data streaming across multiple displays. Coffee cups sat half-empty on desks as if the personnel had simply vanished in the middle of their duties. Lisa examined the research computers while Tony's team spread out to search the living quarters and laboratories. The scientists had been studying local plant specimens and atmospheric data. Nothing in their work suggested they had encountered any dangerous predators. "Found something in Lab Section 3, called one of the Marines over the comm system. "You need to see this immediately." Lisa and Tony rushed to the laboratory complex at the rear of the station. What they found there made Lisa's blood turn cold. The reinforced walls had been torn open from the outside, leaving jagged holes large enough for a person to walk through. Claw marks scored the metal like it was soft clay. "Those are the same claw patterns we saw yesterday," said Tony as he examined the damage. "But how did it get through armor plating designed to stop military weapons?" Inside the laboratory, they found signs of a struggle. Equipment was scattered across the floor, and workbenches had been overturned. But there were no bodies, or bloodstains anywhere. The personnel had simply disappeared without a trace. Amy called out from the communications center. "I found a partial message that was being transmitted when contact was lost. The last entry was logged at 347 hours this morning." Lisa listened to the recorded message with growing horror. Dr. Peterson's voice came through the speakers describing something moving around the station perimeter during the night. He reported that the security sensors were malfunctioning and showing impossible readings. The message cut off abruptly, with sounds of screaming and metal being torn apart. Then only silence. "It took them all," whispered Lisa as the full scope of what had happened became clear. 47 people just vanished in a matter of minutes. Tony was studying the claw marks on the walls with increasing concern. The damage patterns suggest multiple entry points hit simultaneously. Either there are several of these creatures, or this one can move faster than should be physically possible. One of the Marines reported finding similar damage in the sleeping quarters and cafeteria. Every room showed signs of the same massive claws tearing through reinforced barriers like they were made of paper. But nowhere did they find any trace of the missing personnel. "We need to get back to the shuttle immediately," said Tony after they completed their search of the facility. "Whatever took these people could return at any time." As they prepared to leave the research station, Lisa noticed something that made her stop in her tracks. Scattered around the facility were small items of personal belongings: glasses, jewelry, clothing fragments, and other objects that had belonged to the missing personnel. "It is collecting trophies," she realized with growing dread. "Just like the bone arrangements we found in that jungle clearing. This creature does not just hunt for food. It takes souvenirs from its victims." The team loaded their equipment back into the shuttle while Tony's Marines maintained security watch. Lisa kept scanning the jungle tree line, expecting to see those burning yellow eyes watching them from the shadows. But the forest remained silent and still. As they lifted off from the research station, Amy received an emergency transmission from the New Frontier. 3 more facilities on the planet had gone silent during the past 4 hours. Research outposts that should have been safe were being systematically attacked by something that could tear through their strongest defenses. "It is hunting us," said Lisa as they climbed toward orbit. "This creature has identified humans as prey, and now it is actively seeking us out across the entire planet." Jake Morris pushed the shuttle engines to maximum power as storm clouds gathered around them. Lightning flashed across the sky like warning signals while rain pounded against their hull. Below them in the jungle, something was hunting with intelligence and purpose that defied everything Lisa thought she knew about predator behavior. Tony contacted the ship to request immediate evacuation of all remaining personnel from the planet's surface. But Lisa knew it might already be too late. The creature had tasted human flesh now and demonstrated that no human-built defense could keep it out. They were dealing with something that made them prey in their own carefully controlled environment. As they docked with the new frontier, Lisa wondered how many more people would disappear before they found a way to stop this thing. The predator had shown them that humanity was not the apex species they believed themselves to be. At least not on this world where something ancient and intelligent had been hunting for far longer than humans had existed. Lisa stood in the New Frontier's main briefing room staring at the holographic display that showed Kepler 442c rotating slowly below them. Red markers indicated the locations where human facilities had gone silent. In the past 12 hours, 7 research stations and 2 mining operations had been attacked. Over 300 people had vanished without a trace. Captain Roberts paced behind her while other senior officers studied tactical readouts and evacuation plans. The ship's xenobiology department had been working around the clock to analyze the limited data they had collected on the creature responsible for these attacks. "Our best estimates put the creature's mass at over 800 kilograms, reported Dr. Stevens from the science department. "Its claws appear to be composed of a crystalline material harder than our strongest metal alloys. The acid residue found at attack sites can dissolve through reinforced barriers in minutes." Tony Blake highlighted several locations on the planetary map. "The attack patterns suggest this thing can cover over 50 kilometers in a single night. It is moving between facilities faster than our atmospheric shuttles can travel." Amy Ford looked up from her communication station, where she had been monitoring distress signals from the planet's surface. "I am still receiving automated emergency beacons from 17 different locations. Some of them are from facilities that were attacked days ago." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. "It is not destroying the emergency beacons. The creature wants us to know where it has been. This is psychological warfare." The briefing room fell silent as everyone considered the implications of her statement. They were not dealing with a simple predator driven by hunger or territorial instincts. This creature was demonstrating complex tactical thinking and a clear understanding of human psychology. "Evacuation of all remaining surface personnel is our top priority," announced Captain Roberts. "We cannot risk any more lives trying to study this thing." "Sir, with respect, I think that would be a mistake," said Lisa as she stepped forward. "If we abandon the planet now, we learn nothing about how to defend against similar creatures on other worlds. This thing has shown it can defeat our best defensive technology. We need to understand how." Tony Blake shook his head firmly. "Dr. Kane, I have seen what this creature can do to fortified positions. It tore through barriers designed to stop military assault vehicles. We do not have weapons capable of stopping something like that." Lisa pulled up her own research data on the holographic display. "Look at the attack patterns more carefully. Yes, it can break through our defenses, but it always attacks at night when visibility is limited. It uses stealth and surprise rather than direct confrontation." She highlighted the timeline of attacks on the planetary map. It also takes time between attacks to study its targets. The creature spent at least 6 hours observing each facility before striking. That suggests it needs to plan its approach rather than relying on brute force alone. Captain Roberts studied the data with growing interest. "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" "I think this creature is not as invincible as it appears," said Lisa. "It has adapted its hunting strategies to work against prey that cannot fight back effectively. But what would happen if we gave it a target that could hunt it in? Return!" The room erupted in concerned voices as the implications of her suggestion became clear. Lisa raised her hand for silence before continuing her argument. "Every species this creature has encountered before humans apparently responded to its attacks with fear and retreat. That has allowed it to perfect hunting techniques that rely on psychological dominance. But humans have evolutionary adaptations that other galactic species lack." She brought up comparative data on human and alien physiological responses to stress. Most intelligent species in the galaxy evolved as either pure herbivores or ambush predators. Humans are persistence hunters. We evolved to chase prey across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. Tony Blake was studying the creature's attack patterns with new interest. "You are suggesting we hunt this thing instead of running from it?" "Exactly," said Lisa. "It has never encountered prey that fought back using coordinated tactics and endurance hunting. The creature's entire strategy depends on its targets acting like typical prey animals." Amy Ford looked up from her communications panel with excitement in her voice. "I just received a transmission from Mining Station 7. They are still operational and requesting evacuation. The facility has 42 personnel, including security teams with heavy weapons." Captain Roberts immediately moved to approve the evacuation mission, but Lisa stepped forward with an alternative proposal. "Sir, what if we use that facility as bait? We could evacuate most of the personnel but leave a small team behind to study the creature's attack methods." "Absolutely not," said Tony firmly. "I will not approve any mission that deliberately puts personnel at risk as bait for this thing." Lisa had expected resistance to her plan, but she pressed on with her argument. "The creature has already demonstrated it can track and destroy any human presence on this planet. Running away will not save lives in the long term. We need to learn how to fight back." She pulled up additional data showing the creature's hunting grounds and trophy collection sites. "Look at the evidence we collected yesterday. This predator has been killing for decades, maybe centuries. It has accumulated trophies from dozens of different species. We might be the first prey that has the capability to turn the tables." Captain Roberts studied the tactical implications, while his senior staff debated the risks and potential benefits of Lisa's proposal. The creature had shown it could systematically eliminate human presence from an entire planet. Traditional evacuation and avoidance strategies were clearly ineffective. "What exactly are you proposing, Dr. Kane?" asked the captain after several minutes of discussion. Lisa brought up detailed plans she had been developing during the previous 12 hours. "We establish a small research team at Mining Station 7 with the best weapons and defensive equipment available. Instead of waiting passively for the creature to attack, we actively hunt it using human persistence tactics." She highlighted the terrain around the mining facility. "The local geography includes several canyon systems that would limit the creature's mobility advantages. If we can force it into a confined space, our weapons become much more effective." Tony Blake was examining the defensive capabilities of the mining station. "The facility has military-grade energy barriers and heavy weapons emplacements. If we reinforce those systems and added additional personnel, we might be able to create a trap." Amy Ford nodded enthusiastically. "I could establish a communication relay system that would let us coordinate with the ship in real time. If the plan fails, we could call for immediate extraction. Lisa felt excitement building as her colleagues began to see the potential of her strategy. The key is to make ourselves appear vulnerable while actually being prepared for the creature's attack methods. We let it think it is hunting us while we are actually hunting it. Captain Roberts called for a formal vote among his senior staff. The risks were enormous, but the potential benefits could save lives on future colony worlds that might encounter similar threats. After 20 minutes of discussion, the decision was made to proceed with a modified version of Lisa's plan. "We will establish a research and hunting team at Mining Station 7, announced the captain. "Dr. Kane will lead the scientific mission while Commander Blake handles military operations. The team size will be limited to 12 personnel with the best equipment we can provide." Lisa felt a mixture of fear and determination as she realized her proposal had been accepted. In 48 hours, she would be back on the planet's surface facing a creature that had already demonstrated it could kill with terrifying efficiency. But for the first time since encountering the Predator, she felt like they had a real chance of success. The creature had evolved to hunt prey that ran away in fear. It had no experience dealing with prey that hunted back with intelligence, planning, and the stubborn refusal to give up that had made humans successful throughout their evolutionary history. As the briefing ended and personnel began preparing for the mission, Lisa wondered if she was making a terrible mistake. The creature had killed hundreds of victims from dozens of species over many years. What made her think that humans would be different? But deep in her mind, she knew the answer. Humans were different because they had evolved as predators themselves. They had developed the ability to hunt prey much larger and stronger than themselves through persistence, tool use, and coordinated pack tactics. Now, it was time to see if those same evolutionary advantages could work against something that considered them prey. Mining Station 7 sat at the edge of a deep canyon system carved into the red rock of Kepler 442c's northern continent. Lisa watched the sun set behind jagged peaks while her 12-person team completed final preparations for the night ahead. They had been on the planet's surface for 6 hours, setting traps and defensive positions. Tony Blake finished installing the last of the motion sensors around the station perimeter. "All defensive systems are online. If that thing gets within 500 meters of us, we will know about it immediately." Jake Morris was testing the emergency evacuation protocols with their modified shuttle. "Extraction time from alert to orbit is now down to 8 minutes. I have the engines running on standby power to cut response time." Amy Ford monitored communications from the mobile command center they had established in the station's main laboratory. Banks of screens showed feeds from dozens of cameras and sensors positioned throughout the canyon system. "All surveillance equipment is functioning normally. We have complete coverage of every approach route." Lisa reviewed the attack data from previous facilities one final time. The creature had always struck between midnight and dawn when visibility was poorest. It used stealth to get close to its targets before launching devastating attacks that overwhelmed defensive systems through sheer speed and violence. "Remember, we are not trying to defend this position," Lisa reminded the team over the comm system. "Our goal is to study the creature's attack methods and collect data on its capabilities. The real fight comes later when we have enough information to hunt it properly." The mining station had been partially evacuated, but 8 volunteers from the original crew remained to help with the mission. These miners had worked on dangerous worlds for years and understood the risks they were taking. They also had personal motivation to stop the creature that had killed their friends at other facilities. Senior miner Bill Walsh checked the heavy plasma cannon they had installed on the station's main observation deck. This weapon can punch through a meter of solid rock. If we get a clear shot at that thing, it will definitely feel the impact. Lisa hoped they would not need such firepower, but she was grateful for any advantage they could gain. The creature's armored hide had proven resistant to standard energy weapons. Only the heaviest military-grade systems had any chance of causing significant damage. As darkness fell across the canyon, the team settled into their assigned positions. Lisa remained in the command center, monitoring sensor feeds while Tony's Marines took up defensive positions throughout the facility. Jake kept the shuttle engines warm for emergency extraction while Amy maintained communications with the New Frontier in orbit above. The first few hours passed quietly with only normal wildlife movement detected by their sensors. Small nocturnal creatures scurried through the canyon system, while larger herbivores moved through distant valleys. The jungle seemed peaceful under the light of 2 small moons. At 01:47 hours, Amy detected the first anomaly. I am getting interference on sensors 12 through 15. Something is disrupting the electromagnetic fields in the Western Canyon approach. Lisa pulled up the affected sensor feeds, but saw only static and distorted images. The creature is jamming our surveillance somehow. It understands our technology well enough to disable specific systems. Tony immediately alerted his security teams, while Jake began pre-flight procedures for emergency extraction. The creature was approaching their position with the same methodical planning it had used against previous targets. Motion detected on the eastern perimeter, reported Marine Corporal Lopez from his position near the mining equipment. Whatever it is moving fast and staying low to avoid the camera angles. Lisa felt her heart rate increase as she realized the creature was already inside their detection perimeter. It had found ways to avoid or disable most of their surveillance systems. They were dealing with intelligence that could adapt to human technology faster than they had anticipated. Western sensors are back online, called Amy from her station. I am reading multiple large contacts moving through the canyon system. Wait, that cannot be right. The reading suggests there are at least 6 separate creatures. Lisa checked the sensor data and felt ice form in her stomach. Either there were multiple predators working together, or this single creature could somehow create false readings to confuse their instruments. Both possibilities were terrifying. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in seconds later, but those few moments of darkness had been enough. Lisa heard screaming from somewhere in the mining complex, followed by the distinctive sound of metal being torn apart. The creature had found a way inside their defenses. Contact in Section 4, shouted Tony over the comm system. Marines converge. On Mining Tunnel 7 immediately. Whatever you do, do not engage alone. Lisa grabbed her portable scanner and weapon before heading toward the sounds of combat. She needed to observe the creature's behavior during an actual attack if she was going to develop effective hunting strategies. She found Tony and 3 Marines trapped behind an overturned mining vehicle while something massive moved through the tunnels ahead of them. Sparks flew as claws scraped against metal surfaces. The creature was toying with them, making noise to create fear and confusion. It is not attacking directly, Lisa observed as she crouched beside Tony. The creature is using psychological tactics to make us panic and scatter. That suggests it prefers to hunt isolated targets rather than coordinated groups. One of the Marines, Sergeant Martinez, was trying to get a clear shot with his plasma rifle. The thing keeps moving between the support columns. Every time I line up a shot, it disappears into the shadows. Lisa realized the creature was demonstrating the same hunting behavior she had observed in Earth predators like wolves and large cats. It was testing their defenses and looking for weakness before committing to a full attack. But unlike animal predators, this thing understood technology and could manipulate their equipment. Amy, are you getting any clear readings on the creatures? Position, Lisa asked through her comm unit. Negative, came the reply from the command center. All internal sensors are showing false readings. The creature is somehow generating electromagnetic interference that makes it invisible to our detection systems. Tony made a tactical decision to fall back toward the main facility, where their heaviest weapons were positioned. Everyone move, as a group. Do not let this thing separate us. As they retreated through the mining tunnels, Lisa caught her first clear glimpse of their stalker. The creature moved along the ceiling, using its claws to grip the metal support beams. In the emergency lighting, it looked like something from humanity's darkest nightmares. But Lisa forced herself to observe rather than simply react in fear. The creature's movements were fluid and controlled despite its massive size. It was clearly intelligent enough to use the facility's architecture to its advantage. However, she also noticed that it seemed cautious about exposing itself to direct fire from multiple weapons. They reached the main complex just as Bill Walsh opened fire with the heavy plasma cannon. The energy blast lit up the tunnel like artificial lightning and struck the creature center mass. For a moment, Lisa thought they had killed it. Then it roared. The sound was unlike anything Lisa had ever heard. It combined the deep bass notes of a large Earth predator with harmonic frequencies that seemed designed to trigger primal fear responses. Several of the miners dropped their weapons and ran despite their training and preparation. The creature emerged from the smoking tunnel with burn marks across its chest but otherwise uninjured. Its yellow eyes fixed on Lisa with unmistakable intelligence. For several seconds, predator and prey studied each other across the facility's main chamber. Lisa realized this was the moment that would determine the success or failure of her plan. Instead of running or showing fear, she stepped forward and met the creature's gaze directly. She was letting it know that humans were not typical prey animals. The creature tilted its massive head as if confused by her behavior. It had expected fear and retreat. Instead, it was facing a prey animal that showed aggressive body language and refused to back down. This was something outside its previous experience. It does not know how to respond to prey that fights back. Lisa called out to her team. Keep your weapons trained on it, but do not fire unless it attacks. Let it think about what we represent. For almost 30 seconds, human and alien predator faced each other in a contest of wills. Lisa could see confusion and uncertainty in those burning yellow eyes. The creature had built its hunting strategies around prey that behaved predictably. Humans were proving to be something entirely different. Then Jake's voice came through the comm system with urgency. Lisa, we have a problem. I am detecting 3 more creatures moving toward the facility from different directions. This was a coordinated attack from the beginning. Lisa felt the tactical situation shift as she realized they had walked into a trap. The creature facing them had been the distraction, while others moved into position to cut off their escape routes. They were dealing with pack intelligence that rivaled human tactical planning. Lisa crouched behind a fallen tree trunk in the dense jungle of Kepler 442c, her breathing steady despite 3 days of continuous tracking. The creature's trail led through thick undergrowth toward a rocky outcrop where it had established its primary hunting den. She could smell the stench of rotting meat and acid that marked its territory. Jake Morris lay motionless, 20 meters to her left, his sniper rifle trained on the cave entrance where they had finally cornered their quarry. Amy Ford monitored communications from a concealed position on higher ground, while Tony Blake coordinated the tactical elements of their hunt from the opposite side of the rocky formation. The past 72 hours had transformed their relationship with the creature from hunted to hunter. After escaping from Mining Station 7, Lisa had convinced Captain Roberts to approve a full-scale hunting expedition using human persistence tactics that no alien predator had ever encountered. "Target is definitely inside the cave system," whispered Tony through the comm. "Thermal imaging shows a large mass approximately 50 meters from the main entrance. It has not moved for over 2 hours." Lisa checked her equipment one final time. Instead of the heavy military weapons they had relied on before, she now carried tools designed for tracking and endurance hunting. A lightweight rifle with armor piercing, ammunition, climbing gear for pursuing prey across difficult terrain, and emergency supplies for extended operations in hostile environments. "Remember, we are not trying to kill it quickly," she reminded the team through her throat mic. "The goal is to wound it badly enough that it cannot escape, then track it until it collapses from blood loss and exhaustion. That is how humans hunted megafauna on Earth for thousands of years. The creature had made a critical mistake by retreating to a fixed position. Its evolutionary programming told it to find a secure den where it could heal from the injuries they had inflicted during their previous encounters. But that strategy only worked against prey that would eventually give up the chase. Humans never gave up. Amy's voice came through the comm system with tactical updates. "I have visual confirmation on 2 alternate escape routes from the cave system. Both lead through narrow canyon passages where the creature's size will limit its mobility." Lisa smiled grimly. They had spent the past 3 days studying the local terrain and identifying every possible escape route from the creature's hunting grounds. Whatever direction it tried to flee, they would be waiting with weapons and tracking equipment. "Jake, you have the first shot," Lisa said as she moved into position. "Target the rear legs to limit mobility, then we begin the pursuit phase." Jake Morris had been the ship's best marksman before this mission began. Now he had become something more focused and deadly. 3 days of hunting the galaxy's most dangerous predator had awakened instincts that human civilization usually kept buried beneath layers of technology and social conditioning. "Shot is lined up," he reported calmly. "Waiting for your signal." Lisa took a deep breath and remembered all the people who had died in the research stations and mining facilities. The creature had killed them because it saw humans as weak prey, animals that could be intimidated and slaughtered at will. Today it would learn how wrong that assessment had been. "Take the shot." Jake's rifle fired with a sharp crack that echoed through the canyon. The armor-piercing round struck the creature in its left rear leg just as it emerged from the cave entrance. Dark blood sprayed across the rocky ground as it roared in pain and surprise. The creature spun toward Jake's position with terrifying speed, but Lisa was already moving to intercept it. Her rifle fired 3 rapid shots that struck its right flank and shoulder. The wounds were not immediately fatal, but they would weaken it significantly over time. "Target is mobile and attempting to escape through Canyon Route Alpha," reported Tony as the creature bounded away from their position with blood streaming from its wounds. Pursuit teams moved to intercept. Lisa ran through the jungle faster than she had ever moved in her life. Her human endurance was designed for exactly this type of extended chase. While the creature was stronger and faster in short bursts, she could maintain her pace for hours without tiring significantly. The creature crashed through the undergrowth ahead of her, leaving a clear trail of broken branches and blood drops. Its earlier confidence and stealth had been replaced by desperate flight as it realized these humans would not stop hunting until one side was dead. Amy coordinated the pursuit from her elevated position using drone surveillance and satellite tracking. "Target has entered the southern canyon system," Blood loss appears significant based on thermal imaging. Estimated time until collapse is 2 to 4 hours at current rate. Lisa felt the ancient satisfaction that her species had evolved over millions of years of persistence hunting. The creature was learning what it meant to be prey animal pursued by patient, methodical predators who never gave up. Every minute that passed brought them closer to victory. Tony and his Marines had positioned themselves along the creature's most likely escape routes. As it emerged from the canyon, they opened fire with coordinated volleys that drove it back toward Lisa's position. The tactical precision would have impressed military commanders throughout human history. "It is trying to double back toward its original territory," reported Jake as he tracked the creature through his rifle scope. Blood trail suggests significant internal damage from the initial shots. The creature made one final desperate attempt to ambush its pursuers. It concealed itself behind a rocky outcrop and waited for Lisa to approach within striking range. Its yellow eyes burned with hatred and predatory intelligence as it prepared for a last attack. But Lisa had been expecting this tactic. She approached the ambush site indirectly while Tony flanked from the opposite direction. When the creature lunged toward her position, it found itself caught in crossfire from multiple angles with no escape route available. Lisa's final shot took the creature through the chest and penetrated its heart. It collapsed to the ground with a sound like falling timber, its massive body finally still after days of relentless pursuit. "Target is down," she reported through the comm system. "Confirming kill." Lisa approached the fallen predator cautiously with her weapon ready. Up close, it was even more impressive than she had realized. The creature massed over 1,000 kilograms, and its claws were longer than her forearm. Its armor-like scales had evolved to deflect the weapons of other alien species, but human persistence and tactical thinking had overcome all of its natural advantages. Tony Blake emerged from his flanking position and surveyed their fallen enemy. "I have to admit, Doctor, your hunting strategy worked better than I expected. This thing never learned how to deal with prey that fought back." Amy Ford was already calling for extraction, while Jake began documenting the creature's physical characteristics for the science teams. But Lisa had one more task to complete before they could declare their mission successful. She drew her field knife and began the process of field dressing their kill. The other team members watched in fascination and slight horror as she methodically harvested meat from the creature's haunches and prepared it for cooking over an open fire. "What exactly are you doing?" asked Jake with obvious confusion. "Claiming our kill," Lisa replied as she tended the fire. "On Earth, successful hunters traditionally ate portions of dangerous prey animals they had killed. It was a way of absorbing their strength and proving dominance over them." Within an hour, Lisa was eating cooked meat from the galaxy's most feared predator, while her teammates watched in amazement. The taste was surprisingly similar to Earth beef, but with a slight metallic flavor from the creature's iron-rich blood. When rescue shuttles arrived from the new frontier, they found Lisa sitting beside the creature's massive corpse, finishing her meal. She had not only killed the most dangerous predator in known space, but had literally made it into dinner. Word of the successful hunt spread throughout the galactic community within days. The species that had been considered the apex predator of multiple star systems had been tracked, killed, and eaten by a single human scientist using tactics that predated spaceflight by thousands of years. Other alien species began to view humanity with newfound respect and wariness. If humans could hunt and kill creatures that had terrorized entire planets, what did that say about humanity's potential as a spacefaring civilization? Lisa returned to her xenobiology research but found that, Other species now sought her expertise in dealing with their own predator problems. Planets that had been abandoned due to dangerous native fauna began requesting human hunting teams to clear their territories. Humanity had found its niche in galactic society not as advanced technologists or peaceful diplomats, but as the species other civilizations called when something needed to be hunted and killed. They were the persistence predators who never gave up until their quarry was brought down. Lisa kept the creature's skull as a trophy in her laboratory aboard the New Frontier. It served as a reminder that no matter how advanced human technology became, they still carried the instincts of successful hunters who had survived by refusing to accept the role of prey. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about underestimating